Thank you very much, Madam. Bismarck, could we please have your general reactions and comments on Dr. Yumkela's presentation before we come to specific areas? Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to be here in the audience of Lagos University, one of the greatest universities of our time. I didn't have the fortune of attending the University of Lagos, but I went to another school not far away from here, Ibadan. So, but the beauty is that the young shall grow. So we've accepted the fact that University of Lagos has now matured. Okay. Apologies. Okay. Professor Kande Yumkela has told us what we already know, and he has emphasized what we know. He has also reiterated what we know, but what you know is different from what you believe in. And like they said, the ears are for listening, the brain is for understanding, and the mind is for implementing. So what we face today is well documented. And the truth is that there is a definition for those who do the same thing and expect different results. There are institutions for such people. So when you have a situation where we've been talking about this same thing from 1960 to 65, 66, Civil War, post-Civil War, military government, post-military government, offsprings of the military government, civilian government, pseudo-civilian government, pseudo-democracy, and we come up with the same results. We end up with the same results, then something is wrong. It was Einstein who clearly said that if you continue doing the same thing and expect a different result, there are institutions for such people. Now, we have a situation where, critically, there is an excess supply of intellectual dishonesty in Nigeria. So I listened to the prof, and he kept on emphasizing the same things, which we all know. They've been documented. The problems of Nigeria are well documented. The question is, why is it that we keep on doing the same thing and expect a different result? Why is it that in spite of all that we have done, we seem to be walking our way down the ladder of success? So, that if you watch an old movie in those days called Kramer versus Kramer, say, why are you walking yourself down the ladder of success? Why is this university, Ibadan University, Nsukka University, Benin, Ahmadu Bello, why are their standards falling? Because the institutions have become weak, and again, we have excess supply of intellectual dishonesty. We just don't want to tell the truth. Or even when we hear the truth, we want to believe something else. So we are in, what I call visual, mental hallucination, where we don't want to hear the truth, but we expect different outcomes. Now, we had Y2K many years ago. We had MDGs, we have SDGs. But if you look at the trajectory of our performance as an economy, right, we've been declining. The broad goals of economics is that this generation must enjoy a standard of living higher than the previous generation. And Professor Bayode, God bless him, right, told us that at the end of the planning process, the quality of life of the people should be better than the quality of life before you. You should live a better life than your father, and your father should have lived a better life than your grandfather. But if you ask yourself today, anytime the word nostalgia is used, it's evidence of the fact that the past is better than the present. And Nigerians live and thrive in nostalgia. Do you know that 10 years ago we were doing this? Do you know that? But that's what it is, because you have not invested in where you're going. Professor Wokoya was the one that drew up the plan, the education plan for Western Nigeria, and committed 40% of the resources of Western Nigeria at that time to education. At the same time, the Eastern Nigeria committed about 20%, and not so well for the other part of Nigeria. However, the result is that 50, 60 years later, you can see the difference. The cumulative investment in manpower. Now, we've had a situation, and Prof was talking about the infrastructure, the growth. If you do not achieve growth of, say, 7 to 10%, then you're actually working your way down the ladder of success. And how do you go about this? The philosophy of, it said politics, policy, pricing, and the key thing is what type of economic policy do you want to adopt? Do you want to adopt a centrally controlled Marxist approach where everything is controlled by the government? And mind you, the federal government of Nigeria is only 50% of the government activity. The rest are states and local government. And if you combine the federal and state government activity together, they don't come to more than 10% of total GDP. So, ab initio, if you depend on government investment and activity as a percentage of total GDP, you are going nowhere. So it leaves you with the other factor, which is investment and consumption. Since the consumption is dependent on oil wealth, what we call a natural wealth economy, where all we do is to share and come back again and share again without producing, then it's only a question of time when that extractive base will decline and will be where we didn't want to be. Okay, so we now go to the only thing that would drive this economy is private sector investment. If you have an investment-led strategy, it will pull along all the other sectors. So, and I'm not saying that leave the markets to determine all your variables, but if you have that combination, what we call the mixed economic model, and this is what the president in his wisdom said, okay, I'll bring this 8 economists to tell me what I know and reiterate what I know, and then we implement what we do know, but maybe we do it differently from how it has been done in the past. Maybe we'll succeed. But if you don't try, then you're guaranteed to fail. So that's the issue. That how do we carry out this transition from a natural wealth economy to a produced wealth economy? How do we invest on all of these things, the politics, the policy, the pricing, and the PPP? How do we go about it? We know the problems already, and quite frankly, Nigerians are sick and tired of telling them the problems and making excuses why you don't succeed. Nobody's interested. There's no difference between an excuse and a reason, period. What you want is succeed in 1 or 2. Instead of having 50 uncompleted projects, complete 2 or 3 and let people see it. So the thrust I see going forward is to prioritize on the things that we must do and know the things that we must not do. And I always refer to Farid Zakaria's simple 3 steps. Stop doing the dumb things. First, there are too many dumb things being done. 2, start doing some smart things and then modernize those things. You can't have a country where everything is stranded. Stranded gas, stranded oil, stranded power. You know, you have airports, 28 airports in a country that needs roads. You have cars without roads. You have rail tracks without trains. Come on. What is this? That is what we call the negative investment multiplier. Because to think that investment must always have a positive multiplier in economics is a fallacy. There is no static situation. You must move either forward or backwards. So what has happened essentially over the years is that we're moving relatively backward. He said, you have to run faster in order to stand still. That's what Keynes said, and that is the truth. That it is time for 1, intellectual honesty. 2, the leadership is the followership, not the leadership of the leadership. I think that's important. And finally, you must know that the demand for good governance, which is the social media and the young people, once you increase the demand for good governance, people may not like it because they say it's opposition, it's that and all that. That's all nonsense. The truth is that an increase in the demand for good governance will be followed by the supply of good governance. If you don't demand it, you don't get it. And you must demand it. I'm not saying be violent about it. You must consistently demand it, because the people in the end get the leadership they deserve. If after 100 years of existence, corporate existence of this country, we are where we are, it's because maybe we did something wrong 2 centuries ago, and we are being punished with the kind of outcomes that we have. But it's time to change it. The past is gone and gone forever. What is important is the steps to make sure that we can make this transition from a natural wealth economy where we believe in sharing and gasping every month to go for FAC, or now produce so that we can produce things and do what was achieved in this country with cocoa, cotton, groundnut, palm oil, and others. Thank you very much.